Hey guys, what's up? Okay, so there definitely has been a stigma around therapy in the past. I think it's definitely getting better as time goes on. It's definitely become a lot more normalized. But when I was younger, I thought therapy was strictly for people who were very mentally ill or people with very serious problems. But growing up, I kind of realized that this isn't true. People go to therapy for a wide range of different reasons. There's family therapy, there's couples therapy, all different types. And it's my opinion that everyone should go to therapy. If you can afford it, both time and money-wise, I think it can be beneficial for anyone. I've touched on my own personal experiences with therapy in my Watch This If You're Lonely and Sad in College video. I reference that video all the time, I know. I thought I would go a little bit more in depth on my own experiences. Not every therapist is going to be a perfect fit for you, and that can be very discouraging. I know when I first heard people say that, I was like, that sounds exhausting. I don't want to go through a million different therapists to find the right one. I'd rather just not go at all. But I think it's worth it. I think it can be easy. You can definitely get lucky and your first therapist is perfect for you. That can definitely be a thing. Let me take myself back to the first time I ever went to therapy. And this was when I was in college. And something that I do want to say, if you're in school and your school offers any type of free therapy program, I would highly suggest you take advantage of that. I didn't take advantage of that until my last year, I think. Or maybe it was my second to last year, I don't know, but I wish I would have gone there as a freshman and taken advantage of that program for all of my years in college, because when you don't have access to that anymore, every therapist is crazy expensive. I can't afford therapy right now. Everyone's insurance is different. Maybe some people's do cover therapy. I've never had an insurance that covers therapy. So, okay, yeah, it was my senior year. I was in college for 5 years, but my fourth year, I finally contacted my school's mental health center, and you had to make a call to make an appointment to get your evaluation done over the phone for some reason at my school. And I was so nervous to do that. I remember pacing around my room, my heart beating so fast, because I'm not good with phone calls to begin with, but also I had never talked about any of my problems, so I was very nervous. After I made the call, I remember you had to go in for an in-person evaluation too. They paired me with someone, and I remember he was kind of young-ish, older than me, but still youngish, probably someone who was in training maybe. He was really, really nice to me. I remember it was my first time ever sitting in a room with someone and talking about all of these things that had been building up in my head and nowhere out loud for so long. And I was so nervous. I remember walking down the hallway of the mental health center and into the little room, sitting in my little chair, my heart pounding. I think I told the guy that I was nervous, and I think he was really nice about it. I do specifically remember talking about my self-harm for the very first time, other than to one other person, my best friend, but other than that, literally I had never spoken it out loud. And suddenly I was in this environment where I was just speaking about it, and yeah, it was crazy. It was over in 2 seconds. He said, okay, so this was your evaluation, and we're gonna get back to you, and we're gonna set you up with a therapist. And I remember being oh my god, I just unloaded all my deepest problems onto this person, and then they're gonna set me up with someone else. I have to say all of this again. That kind of becomes a repeating pattern. Every time you get a new therapist, you're let's start from the beginning again. So they actually sent me up with a therapist that wasn't working for the school. It was just someone in the community they just paired me up with, because the waiting list, I think, for the school therapists was extremely long at that time. This was an interesting experience. My first ever therapist, he was really nice. His style of therapy was definitely different from anything else I've seen since then, but it was very in-depth. He was very interested in me and my life and pretty much everything about me. He would ask about my music taste, movies. He would ask very, very deep questions. The whole sessions were kind of Q&A sessions. Like he would ask me a bunch of questions and more questions and more questions to like deeper analyze everything that I was saying. And looking back, I really like that style rather than someone like just letting me ramble and ramble. I remember showing him some pages from my journals. He even like asked to see my scars. So I like would show them to him. I remember being really nervous for like all of those sessions, and they would go by like that. I remember him saying like, oh, those aren't so bad, like, yeah, I've seen worse, like those will fade in like a few years, they'll be totally gone. And I was so sick at the time that my first thought was, oh no, like I better hurry up and make new ones. So not saying he's wrong for saying that, that could have really helped someone else, but for me personally, like my brain was like, I better make them worse. My second one was the following summer, and once again, you know this if you've watched my college video, but she was the one who ended up calling my mom and telling her about my depression, and then my mom like helped me get antidepressants and figure out how to do that with the doctor and the insurance and blah 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 blah, because I don't know how to do things even though I'm an adult. So that was just for the summer. That was kind of a short one, but she was really nice. I don't think I ended up getting like that deep about stuff with her. I don't know. I think I only saw her for a few sessions because of like money reasons. And then when I went back to school the next year, I went straight back to the health center and got matched up with a therapist who was actually working for the school, and they had like free therapy. And how it kind of worked at my school was for 10 weeks you can see your therapist. And that's not like a strict hard rule. If you need to go longer than that, you can, but because of the wait list and how many students were in need of therapy, if you were able to end after 10 weeks, then they would suggest that you do. In like the waiting room, there was always like 20 people. Some people taking up all the couches, some people would have to stand, like it was always crazy crowded in there. But okay, this is my favorite therapist that I've actually ever had. I think I've only had 4 total, but this therapist that I got set up with, she was once again like pretty young, older than me, I would assume. I mean, who am I to speculate on someone's age? That's kind of weird, but I'm just trying to paint you a picture. Like she was probably older than me, but still like looked young, like looked like, I don't know, a grad student or something. And she kind of became like a friend to me. I remember I would like go into her office and be like, I have so much to tell you. I showed her a lot of my journals as well. I would read my journals out loud to her, and she was pretty much exactly what I needed at the time. I was really struggling a lot with sexuality at this time, and I was kind of battling whether or not I was asexual, and the kind of things I talked about with her are, I'm just gonna be honest, like things that I would not feel comfortable saying to like a man twice my age. So in that sense, like she was the perfect therapist for me at that time. I felt like very, very comfortable around her, and she helped me through a lot. So overall, best therapist I ever had. I was the most open with her out of any therapist I've ever had. After the 10 weeks, my mental health was going up, and I ended that, you know, to give my spot to someone else because I wasn't in dire need of it. But if that weren't the situation, if there wasn't a long waiting list, I feel like I could have continued with her for like the whole rest of my college. Ugh, I miss her. I moved to Michigan and got myself set up with a therapist because I needed it. This is the worst therapist that I've ever had, and I don't want to be mean. Okay, this person, he was very nice, very kind person, but in terms of therapy, he was not great. He just didn't get me. I don't want to make assumptions, but I definitely got the impression that he thought I didn't really have like, that my problems weren't very serious, which, okay, fine, like people have way worse problems than me, of course, but I don't know, I feel like he kind of got the impression that I just like needed someone to talk to just because of like a lack of friends around me, and like just like out of loneliness I just like needed someone to chat with. But that really wasn't the case. He just didn't really like connect with me. Like I remember he gave me these like printouts about like anxiety and stuff, and they looked like just the first thing that comes up when you like Google like help with anxiety. And he printed out like little the type of thing you might see in like an adult coloring book, like complicated patterns for me to like color in. He just like printed those out for me, and he was like, these can help with anxiety, like color these in. Okay. I think I did color them in, like, thanks, but like that didn't really help me, my mental health at all. He would talk a lot about himself for a therapist. Like, pretty much everything I said, he would like relate it to something in his life. I think I learned more about him than I ever have about a therapist before, like him and his life. I remember he went on a whole ramble after I like briefly mentioned college. He went on like a whole ramble about, oh, I remember those days in the dorms, like that was such a crazy life. Like all my friends in the dorms, we would just like stay up all night, blah 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 blah. He just like went on and on without even realizing that that's like, there's nothing less relatable to me than that. Like that's the complete opposite of my college experience, and I didn't even get to like get a word in about my own experience. Kind of ridiculous. So obviously I stopped going to therapy, and since then I haven't really bothered to like reach out for another one. So overall, I've had some good therapists, some not so good therapists. I think overall I've had more good experiences than bad. That last guy, he was really nice. Like he seemed like a very kind person, but the therapy just like wasn't there for me. So some overall thoughts, what you can expect from therapy in general. I would say, like, first of all, it's not that serious. When I was first starting out with therapy, I thought it was like this really, really serious thing. I didn't really know what to expect, but I thought they would kind of treat me like I'm very seriously ill. But they really don't. Like, none of them do. It's like they're really just there to like help you and listen and guide you to your own realizations and stuff like that. Some people can argue that, well, why pay someone like $200 an hour just to listen to me talk when I could just talk to a friend? Friends are great, and it's great to have friends that you can have an open communication with about mental health and stuff, but you can't be dumping every single little thought. A friend could get kind of exhausted with that, and also the average person isn't like trained in psychology, and even if like your therapist isn't diagnosing you or it doesn't seem like they're using their like knowledge of psychology, they probably are. They've talked to a lot of different people about problems, like they know how to recognize patterns in people. Again though, like it is it is expensive, at least like in the US. I don't know about other countries, but it is extremely expensive, and I think that's unfortunate. I wish that everyone could go to therapy. I just think it's good to just like analyze the things that you're going through and to like be forced to think about them for an hour every week or whatever. There is one negative thing about therapy for me in my personal experience. You can get really open with the therapist, but there's always one barrier, and that is suicidal thoughts. In the beginning, like when you start therapy, they make you like fill out all those forms, and like you sign a thing that says like, if I'm a danger to myself or others, then your therapist has the authority to like contact police or your emergency contact or something like that. And I never felt like I could fully open up about like suicidal ideation and stuff like that with any of my therapists, because I was always afraid that they were gonna like take it too seriously and like call my parents or like call the cops or something. I always felt that barrier that I could never be like fully 100% open, because I just didn't want to like alarm anyone enough to contact someone and like create a big scene about something that was just like a random thought in the back of my mind, you know? I don't know if they actually do that. Like I've always just been really careful about like what I talk about. If you have experience with this, let me know. Maybe I'm being too careful. Maybe you can totally be super open about it and they know like when you're not a danger to yourself. I don't know. In my experience, like I just don't want to worry them the whole night before. I could stay up the whole night crying and then go to the therapist's office the next day and be like, so yeah, nothing's wrong. Like everything's pretty good, I guess. Like I'm just like kind of a little bit sad. I don't know. If you feel like you could benefit from therapy and you can afford it, absolutely do it. If your school provides free therapy and you have the time for it, absolutely do it. Your first therapist might not be the perfect one. It's usually not that hard to switch. Yeah, that last one I definitely just ghosted. I could just stop going, stop making appointments. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you have any specific questions. I think I said everything that I wanted to say. I would love to try like online therapy one day, especially, you know, in pandemic times. But yeah. All in all, if you're really struggling, I think talking to someone is one of the best things that you can do. It didn't like save my life, but it definitely opened the door for me to start recovery. Me calling my school's mental health office, I would mark that as like the very beginning of my recovery journey. So yeah, I hope everyone is staying safe and doing well and taking care of your mental health, of course. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.